Alternativa за Швеция. Alternativa за Швеция поддържа идеята за собствен отбранителен суверенитет на Швеция и поставя националните интереси на страната над членството и в съюзи и пактове. Тя застава зад идеята за защита на националните граници от мигрантския натиск. Да приветстваме лидера на Alternativa за Швеция, Gustav Kasselstrand.
My dear Bulgarian friends, I want to say thank you for the invitation to your country. This is in fact the first time I visit Bulgaria. As the airplane approached Sofia, I was lucky to have a clear blue sky and the sun shining. This meant I got to see just how beautiful your country is before I had even landed. The majestic Stara Planina, the valleys, the forests, the winding roads going from village to village. And finally, as we descended to Sofia, the magnificent St. Alexander Nevsky Cathedral, appearing as the very heart of the city. Never ever stop fighting for your great nation, as this belongs not only to the Bulgarians of today, but to your ancestors and your descendants who cannot protect what is rightfully theirs. Every generation has to do it for them. I know that your party is fighting hard to keep your national currency and ultimately the right to determine your own monetary policy. Speaking of this, do you know when was the last time that Sweden had a referendum? Was it when we applied for NATO membership 2 years ago, leaving 200 years of neutrality? No, it was more than 20 years ago. Back in 2003, on the abolition of the national currency krona and the adoption of the euro. The ruling parties were sure to prevail, but the result turned out to be disastrous and embarrassing for them. What happened was that a clear majority of the Swedes voted no to the euro. And why did we do it? And why did we do it? Because we could see, some 10 years after we had entered the European Union, that the politicians had lied for us that time. What they promised about the EU membership did not turn out to be true, and so they couldn't fool us one more time. Now, you might understand why the so-called democratic Sweden has not arranged a referendum in 2 decades, and why there are no plans to ever do it again. The whole of Europe is now at the crossroads, and it is up to us to not only choose the direction, but also lead the way forward. We represent the Europe of nations, freedom, peace, prosperity, and above all, self-determination. They represent quite the opposite. A European federation set up by and for unelected politicians, bureaucrats, and lobbyists whose societies have failed wherever their wicked policy has been tested. This is not a theory, but a fact. Anyone can see for themselves that their project, you might even call it an experiment, favors only themselves, but are dragging our nations into economic, demographic, and social disaster. My country, Sweden, is perhaps best representing this very downfall. Not too long ago, we were a role model for the world. Today, our country serves as a warning example. Just this week, our nation is in shock after yet another unimaginably brutal act of violence. A father and his son passed a gang of immigrants who misbehaved, he asked them to behave properly. Immediately, he was shot in the head in front of his son, who had to call the police, and his grandma in front of his dying father. This did not have to happen, yet it did. And it is the result of the open border policy that the ruling parties have adopted for 50 years, bringing in millions of immigrants and giving them citizenship. Despite all this, they failed to admit any responsibility whatsoever for turning the safest country of Europe into a civil war. Swedes are expected to become a minority in our own country within 30 years. My party presents a solution to this problem. In fact, the only solution that can make Sweden safe and Swedish again. Send the misbehaving migrants home and send the responsible politicians to court. They both have blood on their hands. I want to end on a positive note. I want you to know that Sweden is finally waking up. There is a revolution sweeping all over the country. This revolution is difficult to notice physically. We are not demonstrating in the streets, but anyone can notice it psychologically, in the minds of the people. We are, for the first time in decades, determined to fight for our country and our people. We are shifting the agenda more rapidly than the ruling class could ever imagine. The time is 2 minutes to midnight. Will the Swedish people succeed in avoiding an irreversible tragedy? Will we manage to save Sweden against all odds? No one can say how this will all end. But what I can say for sure is that I will be on the right side of history. I will fight for what is right, what is true, and what is ours until the end of my days. And I will do it together. And I will do it together with you, my European friends. Thank you.